Yo, what is going on, everybody? So I know this is probably a little later than usual, and I know a lot of you guys in the US are asleep. And I know a lot of you guys in Australia are at work or busy doing something else. So I'm not expecting a huge turnout for this stream, and that's totally cool. Because I'm just doing a few things before work. This is one thing I needed to get out of the way. Not so much needed to get out of the way, but I really wanted to share this, actually. It's just something like I didn't want to, like I couldn't let this drag on. This has been lurking in my head, and I just wanted to talk about it. So, how often have you seen the story of the guy who gets into a fight at the bar? And there's been times where I've actually seen guys who have gotten into a fight with the dude that's there with a girl, and the girl goes home with the guy who wins. And you kind of go, what? Like, why wouldn't you look after your boyfriend? It's because girls want to wait at the finish line and fuck the winners. And this guy was the winner. And the catalyst for this, I guess, this train of thought that I'm going on was because I came across this article. Now, there's an article here, and it's got a video embedded in it. I'm going to share this video on stream. And this is basically a fight that broke out in a car park. And this, look, it appears this was an organized fight, and these guys look like a couple of eshays. For those of you who know what eshays are, you know what they are. For those of you who don't, ESHAYS, go and check it up online. But it's sort of basically, the lads that wear the caps and, the Nike TNs and got the bum bags with their Rolly cigarettes. That's kind of like the typical stereotype. But I'm not going to harp on about that. I'm just going to show you what I'm talking about here. Check this out. Confronting moment, organized fight club brawl unfolds in a car park as frenzied onlooker screams, "No weapons," and calls for a fair fight. So they want look, here's the thing. They want other people to fight fair when they're not one of the people in the fight. When they're the ones in the fight, when they are one of the combatants, then they don't want to fight fair because they want to get an advantage because they don't want to lose. Right? And in the same way as they don't want to go home with the loser. They don't want to lose because going home with the loser is losing. And losing a fight is losing. And they don't want to lose. And I get it. But I just want you guys to understand this. We go, shocking footage has emerged of a group of men trading blows in a wild brawl in a Western Sydney car park. The Malay filmed in Tilapia, which is kind of known for this sort of stuff, has gone viral online after it was shared to Snapchat. The footage starts with two men going toe-to-toe with a flurry of punches as mates watch on. At least two women can be heard cheering the men on and yelling instructions. So these are some pictures of it here. But I'm going to quickly play this video. And one of the girls goes, "Get him, Kano." Obviously, his name's Kane, and she's just tacked an O onto the end, which gives you an idea about the caliber of the people that are probably involved in this. But that's beside the point. Let's get into this. Notice that? She's saying, "Get up, get up." These girls think that they get to dictate the terms of the fight because it's them that wants to see the fight. It's not the other people. Have another crack then. They want them to go back in. See, they're literally sitting there saying, "No, do this, do that, grab that bag, you win, you lose." They're trying to dictate the terms of this conflict. Okay, so let me pause that there. So I'm just going to take that back off the screen. So, guys, do you see what I'm saying here? So, and I know that one video doesn't mean that all women like to watch men fight, right? And I'm making a generalized statement because if we look at the boxing and things like this, a lot of them love it, right? Now, what you'll also notice is that quite often, someone's saying, "Is there supposed to be sound on the video?" There is. I don't know if all of you could hear it or some of you couldn't. And someone said, "Can someone tell me the name of that Australian woman Sydney interviewed in his car?" That was Bettina Arndt. That's ARNDT. So I'm looking at this video, right? And I'm just thinking about because I work as a security guard, as some of you may know. And I just thought about all these other times that I've actually witnessed women either being really aggressive. Like there seems to be more boundaries between guys, whereas when girls are going in for you, they're going in. They will stop at nothing until they think they don't have a chance quite often. And, they will argue with you. They'll yell. Sometimes they'll even hit. Like we had, I've seen in the last month, girls hitting security guards. It wasn't me. I wouldn't tolerate that stuff, obviously. But also you got to understand these guys don't know how to respond because there's no rules for engagement for them, because the rules for engagement is don't hit women. Don't hit them, period. And there's no other scope for retaliation or even self-defense, because sometimes you might need to hit the person that's attacking you to disarm them or at least physically overpower them, but that's not something that we're allowed to do with women. And I get the reasoning behind that, and I understand that it's important, and I understand that men are typically stronger than women. I get it. I'm not trying to dispute any of that stuff. I'm not trying to target anyone. I'm just saying that this is my observations. So I did some looking, right? Because I heard on a video that I referenced from the Fresh and Fit podcast, shout out to them, and one of the guests they had on the show said women like the bad boy look. So don't necessarily like a guy that is a bad boy per se. And I guess that depends on what your definition of bad boy is. But I found a plethora of articles. And, I guess I wanted to start with this one because, and even right now, like when I went, when I was going to go live, I saw this video from King Richards talking about why women prefer dating drug dealers and thugs over 9-to-5 men. And look, some of you are going to say, well, no, not all women. And I get that. And there are a lot of women who don't like that type of guy. But there are also a lot of types of girls who do. I see it all the time. I know that this is a thing. And I got to thinking, what about all of the, and guys, some of you are going to get yourself into trouble at some point. And my own uncle, when he was younger, someone was peeing on the street in front of him and his girlfriend, now wife, and my auntie, and or something to that effect. And he tried to stand up for her honor, and that ended badly. I mean, he's still around, he's still fine, but it ended up in a physically violent confrontation. That's not something you want to get into. And guys, what you have to do is understand that quite often, particularly if you have someone in your life who is a woman who is high drama, they will want to get you involved in their dramas because quite often they will see you as either the person that can do their dirty work or the person that can mediate the situation better than they can. Sometimes these people just want to do really malicious things, and there's plenty of guys that want to do really malicious things as well. They tend to do it more often for themselves if they're really that passionate about it. But I think you'll find a lot of the reason why we're not seeing as many reports of physical attacks and taking of lives of men by women is because often, especially if they have a new partner or if they've got someone that's prepared to do their dirty work for them, they can actually turn to that person to have it done. So let me show you some articles that I've found just with a quick cursory search. I didn't even have to go digging for this stuff. It's everywhere. Justin Simmons says, never fight other guys for women. It puts you down as low, if not lower than a simp. That's right, Justin. And that is exactly my point. That is my entire and my absolute point. Because guys, you are going to get yourselves into trouble if you try and do the dirty work for women that involves harming other people. Period. Don't do it ever. It doesn't matter how much this person begs you or pleads you or how much you care about them or how, smitten with them you are. The moment that they try to get you to do violent things for them, kick them to the curb. Because here's the thing. And not saying not physically, obviously, but part ways, amicably on your side, and just say, I'm setting my boundary. No more. I'm not going to have you in my life anymore. So when it comes to a woman, they're most attracted to the guys that have the most potential to be dangerous, but with the least propensity to use that when it's not required, because that shows a high level of discipline and a high level of self-control. And I'm going to show you a few of these articles of examples of where guys have thrown themselves under the bus to go over and above for a woman in ways that they didn't actually need to. Let me get onto this here. Here we go. We've got a man accused of disposing of his girlfriend's ex-husband. He appeared in court. Now we've got another one, found guilty of disposing of ex-wife's new husband. Man who disposed of partner's ex-husband on Christmas Eve, sentenced. Boyfriend disposed of, ex-husband critically injured after a shootout over a woman. And interestingly, with a twist here, mother who arranged medieval fight to the death duel between her ex-husband and her lover to see which one of them would win her hand is jailed for life. And basically the situation here we go. First line of the article, a thrill-seeking mother of four who arranged a medieval duel to the death, which would see one of her two admirers, to see which one of her two admirers would win her hand, has been locked away for life, as she should be. Because this is what I'm saying, that they're getting you to, and this is exactly what happened in the video, and it's exactly what happened here. They're getting you to fight for their approval, right? Because the person who fights the hardest is clearly not only the strongest and the most capable and with the highest capacity for danger, but they also have the highest ability to protect. Now, we've got a comment over on Twitch. It says, as a woman, do not try to stand up for me or do my dirty work. I appreciate it, but please don't. And that's a fair comment, and that's totally cool. And what I would say is that with Ghost King here, who's made that comment, she's not asking anyone to stand up to do her dirty work. But this person on the screen is asking people to stand up and basically put themselves in a dangerous position. Here we go here. Utah man who disposed of his ex-wife's husband sentenced to a prison term of 21 years for life. Man disposes of wife's ex-husband during argument at a Harris County apartment. Guys, do you see what I'm saying here? This is not just an isolated thing. And of course, it's not every woman you see on the street at all. At all. Right? And there is a saying, simping ain't easy. Look, and it may seem easy at the time. It may seem like an easy in to get sexual access to the woman that you are trying to woo. And the reality is, and I've said this time and time again, but I'm going to say it again for those who haven't caught it before. Women are the ones who grant sexual access. Men are the ones who grant access to relationships, because women are more likely to want a relationship and are more likely to want commitment and more likely to want marriage. Hear the word want. Women are more likely to want these things and men are more likely to want sex. And sometimes, if a man values the person at a high enough level, they will trade that sexual access in exchange. Yep. They will trade that sexual access in exchange for a relationship. So it's like a reciprocal thing. But quite often, when you see relationships where they break down because there's no sexual access, granted, quite often the man can stray. And of course, when the man strays, then the woman can quite often get upset and say, well, you cheated on me. And it's like, well, yes, he did cheat on you. And I'm not denying that. I'm not minimizing that. But also, there's somewhat of a contract. If we enter into a relationship with you because all we wanted to begin with was sex, and we're prepared to commit to you for the long term, there's got to be a little bit of give and take. Because if you want us to give what you want us to give, then you need to give what we want you to give. And that's not to say that there should be any unfair, overly sort of lopsided balances of demands and who gives what. It should be balanced. But what I'm saying is that you can't just both give exactly the same thing and expect that both sides are going to be happy. Right? You on this side have to give the other side what they want. You on this side need to give the other side what they want. Because if there's no mutual reciprocity back and forward, and you should also apply this concept to all of your friendships, all of your relationships, all of your workplace contracts. And if you're getting shafted, then, well, it's not going to work out too well. And look, I know that there's sometimes when guys are the ones that are not interested in the sexual relations. And sometimes as a byproduct of that, the woman will step out on him. So it's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. You can't expect it to be all on the woman. And you can't expect it to all be on the man. And if you're not prepared to partake in that exchange and expel that energy with the hope of something in return, then don't get into a relationship. Simple. It's as simple as that. And a lot of guys are making that choice. And that's why the philosophy that I espouse is essentially taking off all over the world. Not because of me, of course, because of multiple people exposing this double standard and this hypocrisy and the real nature of men and women. Joe Buddy says, Sydney, do you believe in no waltz? Well, I believe that there are certain traits that are almost universal to men, and there are certain traits that are almost universal to all women. When we say not all women are like that, you have to be very clear about what you mean. Because not all women willingly want to destroy men, but yet someone will say that all women are like that. Simply not the case. There may be some things where most women are like that. Whether it be negative or positive. So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to have this conversation in absolutes. I'm not going to say all women are not like, I'm not going to say all women are like that or no women are like that. I'm not going to say all men are like that. I'm not going to say all men are not like this. I'm just not going to enter that discussion because that's not what I believe. There are too many variables in human nature, too many variables to make absolutes. The only thing that is absolute is that if we don't have sustenance, we will die. And also the fact that we'll die eventually anyway, right? Mortality is the only thing that is an absolute. As far as I'm aware, there's no such thing as immortality for human beings. And if I'm wrong, please, somebody prove me wrong. But that's going to probably take an eternity because, well, even if someone lives for 1,000 years, they could die at 1,001st year. So we're never going to be able to prove that there is such a thing as immortality. But I think it's safe to say that we can prove that there is such thing as human mortality. Anyway, let me continue here. So the next thing I'm going to get onto, because I started to do a bit of searching about this particular topic. And there was an article that came up and it says, do women really go for bad boys? Here's the science that settles that question. And I couldn't find an author to this particular article. I'm guessing because they didn't want to be identified because they're probably afraid of the feminist mob coming after them as tends to happen when you tell anything that is remotely truthful about human nature. And it says, nice guys finish last is one of the most widely believed maxims of dating. Fleshed out, the idea goes something like this. Heterosexual women might say they want nice characteristics in a partner, but in reality, what they want is the challenge that comes with dating a quote-unquote bad boy. The idea is so widespread that some people are even making money off the back of it, selling self-help books and teaching men how to pick up women by insulting them, a practice known as negging. Recently, an article published by Broadly. By the way, Broadly is actually it's a subsection of Vice magazine. Published by Broadly claimed everyone knows bad boys are desirable. Thanks to a recent study, this is now scientifically verifiable. Now, and this is what I'm saying about absolutes, guys. We can't just say women love bad boys, period, full stop, end of story. Because not all women do like bad boys. And there's multiple different variants of what people define as a bad boy and what's not. I did find this, however, and I found this really interesting. It says 10 eye-opening reasons why women like bad boys. And it says, in case you're a typical guy, nice guy who doesn't understand why the girl of his dreams ended up dating a guy that you would call a complete jerk, you probably want to know the reason for that. A couple of years ago, I was in the same situation as you are today. I constantly asked myself why the women that I admired and I treated in the most respectful way ended up dating guys that didn't even call them back after 3 missed calls. Back then, I thought those women must have some psychological issues that forced them to end up with guys that aren't good for them. I even started to believe that I have to treat women in a disrespectful way in order to attract them. Now, this is the logical conclusion. We guys, we've got testosterone. We are driven by logic most of the time. Yes, of course, we have emotions and we can be driven by those. But logically, that tends to be our go-to for problem solving. And that's why we go into problem solving mode whenever our partner or female friend is, not feeling the best. We want to fix things, right? That's the instant mode that we go into, but we shouldn't go into that mode straight away because that's not always what they need. And a lot of guys do think that women have got psychological issues that force them to end up with guys like that. But that's simply not the case. Sometimes it is. But there are actually a number of logical reasons behind why certain decisions tend to be overwhelmingly made by the majority of females. And when I say the majority, I mean over 50%. So let's dig into this list because this really resonated with me. And Ali and Maria saying that they think most women like guys in uniform. Man, I'm telling you, the girls that flirt with me when I'm wearing my security gear, it's out of control. Like it happens every single night that I work. And, it rolls off me like water for duck's back. Like I don't need that. I don't need to mix business and pleasure. But it's been my observation that this tends to be an overwhelming trend. And this guy admits he was wrong. When I finally realized that women are attracted to them because of all the positive characteristics that those guys have, that when put together to the uninitiated, to the person who doesn't understand what women are attracted to more often than not, that's where these guys get frustrated because they've been taught all of the opposite or had it presented to them in the wrong way or in a slanted perspective from other women in their life that can't necessarily articulate what's going to make these guys high value men or more desirable. And, if you want to find out about high value men, go and check out Kevin Samuels on YouTube. He talks about this all the time and he is a high value man. So he's got the receipts to back up, what high value men want. And by the way, ladies, having a high value man is one of the hardest jobs you'll ever have in your life. Shout out to Kevin Samuels for that gem. And he explains that in one of his videos, but you can go through there. He speaks to women and asks them questions and they tell on themselves about why they're not high value women, which then explains, of course, why they're not getting high value men, which seems obvious to the outsider, right? Ghost King says we should go back to the 1940s. Look, in many ways, I agree. And no, I'm not a PUA at all. I'm just talking about the lies that we've been taught about what women tend to want more often than not. Why women don't like your definition of a bad boy. He says, when I first realized that nice guy behavior doesn't get me anywhere, at least not near a vagina, I started to think about why women like bad boys. I didn't have to think long until I had a clear picture in mind of the guy that women are attracted to. I imagined a muscular guy with a leather jacket who rides a Harley Davidson and who shoots everyone who looks at him. I imagined an outlaw, a gangster, a guy who would kill his own grandmother for a couple of dollars. And this is the sort of visual concept that a lot of guys tend to get when women say, oh, I like bad boys. You know, they're like, oh, so you're like assholes that murder people? No, that's not what they're trying to say. They just don't necessarily know how to articulate it in one sentence without having to go through a list of things and a list of qualities that they find desirable. You don't have to become a member of the Hells Angels, or as this guy said, Angles, little typo there. That's okay. But he's right. You don't have to become a member of the Hells Angels. Of course, there are some girls who write love letters to serial killers, but those chicks definitely have a screw loose. Just because a bad boy has the word bad in his name, he doesn't mean he's a bad person. And that is a very, very important delineation and distinction to make. It also says you don't have to dress like a bad boy. So don't dress like this guy in the picture. Don't dress like this guy in the picture. But you just don't need to dress like the stereotypical bad boy that you envision when you think about a bad boy in a movie, right? You don't have to treat women badly. Someone goes, I should change the way I treat women. From now on, I start to treat them like dirt because that's what real bad boys do. No. That's what insecure guys do. And look, if your definition of treating women like SHIT, then, so if you're going to define treating women like that as setting boundaries and saying no when it's not in your best interest, well, then I guess that's how I treat girls. But in the typical sense of the word, treating someone like S, that's not what I do. And that's not what guys who are really successful with women do, at least in the context of a long-term relationships. Sometimes girls that get treated badly, they're like, wait, no guy ever treats me badly. This guy's different. And typically speaking, those girls have got somewhat of a screw loose somewhere, at least on some level, or maybe they've had bad experiences when they were younger, or maybe their first boyfriend was a dirtbag and treated them really poorly with no justification, and maybe that's just their pattern. But for the most part, treating women really badly is not going to land you a long-term relationship. And again, I'm not a PUA. I'm not trying to tell you that you should do these things to get girls and have a wife and have a happy life, blah, 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 blah. I'm just talking about the reality of relationship dynamics and how, this all sort of unfolds into this primal urge for women to see guys sort of raising up above another. And so, yeah, I don't want you to become a bad person. I just hope you realize what you did wrong in your past interactions and that you understand why those guys who you label as assholes and jerks are so damn successful with women. Exactly. It's the things certain things that they do. It's not their persona as a whole. It's certain things that they do. And these are this list of 10. I'm not going to read the details. I'm just going to read the headlines because this list of 10 is essentially a short list of most of the key attributes of high value men that are attractive to a large portion of the female population if they were to be shown a photo and a little bit about him. 1, he represents his own opinion. Right? He's got his own opinion. If he could bring flowers on the first date or not, but he's like, this is my opinion. This is my reasoning behind it. I know this to be fact, and I'm not going to sway my opinion just because your feelings are hurt by it. So that's 1. He takes her on an emotional roller coaster ride because women are driven by emotions for the most part, whether we like to admit that or not. And that's not to say that they're incapable of surviving in the world because they have emotions, right? But, you got to understand that women are more emotionally inclined than men. Ghost King said, the only thing I want out of a man is someone who's kind and law-abiding. That's not entirely true because you do want more things than that, Ghost King. I think if I was to sit down with you and ask you about, things that have appealed to you about past boyfriends and things that would, really make you delighted, there'd be a much bigger list than just being a law-abiding, kind man. Although kind is underrated. providing that you combine it with the things in this list. All right, let's keep going. And this is a pie chart. Yeah, it's kind of amusing to any guy who's dated women that they'll understand this. Why women cry: joy, the yellow quadrant; sadness, the green quadrant; and the rest of the other 75, 80%. I don't know. and that's true. Like, any guy who's dated women will know that's pretty much a representation of what we have to actually deal with if we don't understand what emotionally drives a woman. 3, he shows self-confidence. 100%. With every action, he communicates that he's a self-confident man. That is absolutely correct. 4, he takes her on adventures. One reason why women like bad boys is because he takes them on adventures. Guys, how many times have you heard a girl say, "Oh, I'd love to go traveling here, or I'd love to do that, or I've always wanted to do that"? These are their adventures that they want to go on. If you take them on those adventures, or you show them new adventures that they didn't even know that they wanted to go on, but they love it, this is another high value trait. 5, he looks like trouble. Why do you think the song in which Taylor Swift sings "I Knew You Were Trouble When You Walk In"? Because every woman can identify with what she sings, right? And you can and this is the thing. Again, back to the Fresh and Fit podcast, the late night. I think it was one of the first one they did. The girls said, "I like a guy who looks like I like the look of the bad boy. I don't like a guy who's bad. I like the bad boy look." And women are incredibly sensitive, and they already feel what a guy's capable of doing when they see him for the first time. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Your presence is everything. Well, it's 90% of everything. 6, he is able to have other women, right? Because if he wasn't able to have other women, he probably didn't have the traits that make him attractive to the majority of women. And therefore, you're probably not going to see him as someone that's high value that you really want to be with, that you'll go out of your way to make happy. 7, he challenges her. Yeah, you have to challenge your partner, because if you don't challenge her, you're going to go, "Oh, I'm boring." And also, challenging bonds you. Right? If you challenge a woman and you're the only one that challenges her, she will always look up to you as the guy that can take on the challenge and push her boundaries and take her outside of her comfort zone safely. 8, he doesn't care about what other people think. That comes back to point 1 about having your own opinion. Right? One reason why women like bad boys is because they don't care about the other people's opinions. This is an extremely attractive characteristic that women find irresistible. Doing your thing without caring about the opinions of others is a sign of independence and emotional strength. And I'm going to be talking about this in my book. Even Elvin says women like a challenge too. That is 100% correct. And so if you can give women that challenge, quite often, not all the time, but quite often, they're going to find that very appealing. Ghost King says, "I'm driven by logic, not emotion, which is why I don't prefer the bad boys like what you're saying." Okay, cool. And look, if you are driven by logic, Ghost King, mad respect to that, because a lot of women are more emotionally centric than logical. So, you would appear to be the exception, not the rule, in that particular regard, if what you're saying is factually true. 9, he's a good leader. Guys, what do I say all the time about just lead? Be the example that you want other people to follow in a positive way. Bad boys usually have the my way or the highway mentality, and they're not particularly known for their qualities as followers. They want to lead their own life without being dependent on the leadership of other people. Exactly. And this is why of the women that have been in very, 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 very long-term relationships with their partners, where they are very happy and they are very content and they feel loved and they feel safe and they feel happy and they feel content and they feel like, they've got the life that they've always dreamed of, or, they feel like they're so lucky to have what they have because they don't know anyone else who has that. All of these relationships have that present where he leads and she follows. Even Jeannie Mai said, "I want to be able to paraphrase. I want to be able to tell him what I want and let him take the lead." Even those girls on The Real who went after Fresh and Fit podcast just because Myron was talking about holding women accountable for bad behavior, in the same way that you need to hold men accountable for bad behavior so that they can, know what the rules of engagement are. This is the thing. But of course, now feminists think everything that a man does is bad behavior. So that kind of going out the window a little bit. But 10, he follows his own path. You go your own way. And this is why so many guys that follow the philosophy of going your own way are so appealing to other women, because we follow our own path. We don't care what other people think. Often leaders, we challenge people. We're able to have other women. Sometimes we look like trouble. We tend to be adventurous in our own right, more often than not. And we have self-confidence because we don't let our confidence get dictated by somebody else. Right? And we represent our own opinion, and that opinion is big tech are trying to silence that. Try to silence it. Right? Here we go. A family friend's daughter was involved with a bad boy, an actual bad boy, and married him. Ended up buying their own gym company, building a house, but it's all lost now. He's in jail, and she lost everything because he's a bad boy. So that's what I'm saying. You don't want to be going for someone who's actually a bad boy. You want to be going for someone with these traits. And this is, and I want to touch on negging as well, because I came across a TikTok account, and I'm going to tell you guys which one it is, because this dude kept going into Hooters and basically just being cheeky and, oh, shut up. That's that guy who goes up to people in cars and says, because I got this hooked up by Bluetooth to my Roadcaster. But let's quickly bring this up. So Big Daddy Vinny on TikTok. If you are on TikTok, look, I don't do TikTok, but I get sent videos often enough that I downloaded the app so that I can view them without it being a pain in the ass. But Big Daddy Vinny, VINNIE, like he spits game, man, and he's got not a lot of videos, and he's got like 1.3 million people following him. And when you look at him, you're like, this is kind of like the stereotypical bad boy that we see girls being attracted to. And this chick at Hooters can't resist him. And he just keeps pulling these lines out. It's pretty classic, actually. And then you've got a guy called, so Chrisa and Chenoa, CHRISAAND So, and look, this guy is sort of like more of a gentle soul, but he's always like negging her, like always just like kind of just teasing her, and like he never stops. He never stops. And Moon Tell that as well. That's another account, and he never stops winding up his wife. You've got to be firm but understanding, but you also, this is the emotional roller coaster. And these guys in these TikTok videos, they do it very, very well. They're extremely effective in the way they do it. And I'm not saying that you need to model yourself off these guys if you're going to try and get into a relationship with someone and be happy. But these are just simple examples of what I'm talking about. Okay? So this whole negging phenomenon that was referred to in that first article that I showed you about, do women really go for bad boys? A woman is drinking at a bar. She's alone. Perhaps she's waiting for a friend. A man slides up to her. He sidles up to her. He's nervous, unsure of himself. He's not a classic Lothario, nor is he classically cool. He's probably alone too. Your roots are showing, he says. She looks around, confused. Perhaps she's misheard. Your roots are showing, he says again, gesturing weakly at her hair. She furrows her brow. Excuse me? The guy tries a different tack. He's sweating. You know, he says, you look just like my little sister. And I'm not saying that that's going to work, because that's probably a pretty terrible example of how to jibe with a woman to attract her, or to, break her patterns, or to engage. But it says, you may never have heard of this bizarre phenomenon before, but in various forms it's being practiced as a seduction technique around the world. Negging, as it's called, is in essence a trick. The idea is to undermine a woman's confidence by making backhanded or snide remarks, give a compliment with one hand and take away with the other. It is about control, putting the man in charge of the interaction by pushing the woman to earn his approval. Now, look, I'm not going to go too far on that, because I don't necessarily think that is the best way that you should go about attracting someone if you do really like them, particularly if, you don't want them to have insecurity issues. It can work with some people, particularly those who are insecure and seeking approval and seeking validation. But it can also be, have psychological effects on them. And, you know, we speak about how so many women do have psychological issues these days. Do we really want to cause more? I think you guys have got to be pretty responsible with this sort of thing. And someone says, I've got a nice hot button topic for you if you want to take it. Sure, George, send me through an email, man, and I will have a look at that. But yeah, look, I'm going to go on to this Vice article, and I'm going to finish off on this. This is the one they referred to in the beginning from Broadly. Why women want to F bad boys. By the way, guys, this is actually written by a woman. So don't turn on me and be like, hey, you know, you're trying to say all this stuff. Nah, man, I didn't say this. This is the senior staff writer for Vice magazine who wrote this. All right, so don't be acting like I'm the one trying to say this stuff, all right? This is just what women are telling me. A recent study from Ghent University in Belgium found that dangerous and harmful behavior like smoking and drinking makes men more appealing as short-term sexual partners. Duh, we thought. And then we asked an expert to tell us why. Why are people so aroused by this tired, stereotypical hot guy? Tristan Bridges is a masculinity scholar. Oh, God. And a professor of sociology. I'm sure he's going to say that they exhibit toxic masculinity or some nonsense like that. At the College of Brockport State University in New York. In an interview with Broadly, Bridges explained that the link between dangerous behavior and masculinity is historic. And we know that men are more likely to be risk takers than women. It is just categorically correct for the most part. In the 1970s, the psychologist Robert Brennan famously said that a form of the phrase "give 'em hell" was an integral component of contemporary masculine identity. Bridges said what Brennan meant was that a man was defined by being an aggressive asshole, and still is. I don't know how much I agree with that fundamentally, but, you know, look, there's a lot there to read. I'm not going to go through it all, guys, but, you know, I just wanted to show you that quite often it's women that egg on these street fights. Quite often. When the street fight is not as a byproduct of direct conflict between two men where emotions flare up to the point where they come to fisticuffs. When it's not that kind of situation, it's usually the catalyst of something that a woman has said or done in trying to get people to engage in conflict. Right? We've seen the fights. We've seen the examples of people doing heinous things to ex-husbands and ex-boyfriends and, you know, friends of women and that they're jealous of and all this sort of stuff. Guys, stop simping for women. Stop being aggressive to other guys because of women. We need to unite. Have a conversation with the guy and be like, listen, man, she's my ex-partner. And I know that she's chosen not to be with me and she's with you now. I just want to let you know some of the things that you need to be aware of. Right? Some of the things that he might otherwise break up with her for. Or things that you weren't aware of before. And if you're aware of them, things would have kept going. So, oh, geez. My second cousin got killed last month protecting a woman from bad boys. Guys, this is what I'm saying. Stop stepping in on shit that's none of your business to protect someone that doesn't give a crap about you. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. You're going to get yourself killed. You're going to get yourself in jail. You're going to get yourself a criminal record. You're going to get yourself hurt, and you're going to look like a dickhead. So stop doing it. Start respecting yourself. Anyway, gentlemen, hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little longer than I'd expected, but obviously had a lot of content to go through. Guys, if you appreciate the content here and you want to support my work, feel free to head on over to the crypto and the PayPal links in the description below. Thank you to everyone who super chats on a regular basis. I appreciate you guys, even if it's just a one-off. I also appreciate it. And the biggest way that you can actually help to support this channel is give a thumbs up, leave a comment, share this video, and also, more than anything, because we've seen what's happening with big tech censorship, click on the first link in the description. It's a bit.ly link. It's innocuous. It doesn't have any label on it. And go and subscribe to that channel and hit the all button, because, you know, there are certain channels that if they were to be taken off the air, they'd probably want to have a backup channel where people are already subscribed so they can start posting their content there. So if you like my content and you're a faithful subscriber and you want to keep getting my content, head on over there and make sure you click that subscribe button and the all notifications bell. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am out of here. I am going to go and get some rest before work, but I appreciate you all. I will catch you in the next video. Thank you to all of you for your contributions again, and I'll see you soon. Peace. Hey, Chinab Man, super sticker. I know at the last moment, man. I appreciate that super chat, brother. Thank you very, very much. And I'm out.